Hey everybody, welcome
Welcome
back.
to Hoff
Hoff
the
the Record.
Record.
This week we're going to be talking about a season of our life that was just a huge blessing. Joanne and I had the opportunity to travel full time in our RV across the country for 2 years.
It seemed to go a lot faster than that, and yet it felt like it was a whole decade. We were very grateful for the time that we had, and we thought, we've had a lot of people ask us about it. So today we're going to take the time to share our top 5 tips of what we learned on the road.
Yeah. So a lot of people ask us, well, like, how did you decide to do that? Well, we were coaching people in health and fitness across the country and virtually, and we would occasionally like travel on the weekend and we'd go see them and we'd get to meet them for the first time or see where they live, meet their families, things like that. And there was one like 6 week trip that we ended up taking. It was 6 weeks in our camper. We bought our camper shortly after COVID, like everybody did. And we figured, well, if we just spent 6 weeks living in our camper, like we can do 6 months or 6 years if whatever. So
We
we
did the calculations about like hotel and then dining, and we figured like you said, if we did this for 6 weeks, it'd pay itself off, or so we thought.
so we decided, you know what? We don't have to live in any one specific location. And we asked each other the question, like, hey, if we could go anywhere, where would we go? And neither of us knew the answer. We're like, well, let's just go travel and find out and see what we like. And so that's kind of what we decided to do. We were going to go see all the people all over the country that we were coaching, and also, as we say, date some of the states and see where we wanted to put down roots.
That's what we should call this one, Date the
Date the
States.
states. I like that.
That's the name. All right. So we wanted to also go over practicalities, like, so many people see on Instagram, they think it's this, morning you wake up with a view with a cup of coffee. And I'm not gonna lie, there were some days that
Those
were
days exist for sure.
they were beautiful and it was great. And there were some days where you wake up and you have howling winds and you're like, oh
the,
wow, this is definitely nature.
the
And
camper's shaking, or your neighbors that are
yeah,
3 feet away from you are screaming at the top of their lungs, or
they're having a family
there's some
moment.
other fun moments too. So, as far as our rig, our setup, we went through kind of three different versions of our
Oh
setup.
yeah.
So we started with a little 16-foot travel trailer,
Mini light.
the mini light. We loved our little mini light.
It
It
was
was
cute.
essentially a studio apartment on wheels. It had a queen size bed and a
Mm-hmm.
kitchenette with a oven and a microwave and a little stove top,
It was cute.
and what they call a wet bath. No, a dry bath. A dry bath. That was one of the requirements that I had. I was like, I don't want to use the bathroom in the shower, so they have to be toilet and shower separate. So that was
Yes.
our first rig. Started pulling that with a Jeep Gladiator. That didn't last very long. So we upgraded to a Dodge Ram. And when we went full time, we had the Dodge Ram and the Mini Light.
I think
So
of Will Ferrell. I drive a Dodge Stratus every time I think of Dodge, but go ahead.
So that was our rig for the first year. And after the first year, we decided we need a little bit more space. We're operating a business out of this thing as well as living out of it. So we upgraded to an F-250 and a fifth wheel, 31-foot fifth wheel, which was a huge, huge upgrade, and probably my favorite setup for sure of what we had. We had more space, but also just from a towing standpoint, even though it was bigger, it was so much better to drive and to tow.
When we went up to the fifth wheel, that was such an upgrade where it felt like a luxurious moment. And, believe me, when it's a dream versus reality, we will go into details here in a moment, but there's definitely parts of it where, just because it's bigger, it doesn't mean it's always better. You have more things you have to like make sure on a checklist. In fact, maybe we could create a digital checklist.
You probably could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey, be on the lookout for that. But let's just start with, Adam, where we exactly went when we were dating the States. And like, let's talk about what we learned.
Sure. So we ended up traveling to 36 states
Woo.
over 2 years. Basically, we went everywhere except for the Northeast. And the only reason that we didn't go to the Northeast is because we had been traveling for 2 years and we had different events that called us to different places of the country at different times. We happened to be down in the Arizona area, actually, towards the beginning of winter. And we're like, well, are we ready to hang up, or we want to go through the winter and then drive all the way up there again? And we were just kind of ready to put down some roots. So we didn't end up making it up there with our RV.
Now let's talk about some of my favorite memories. I'll go
You go
first.
first.
My favorite memory was in Yellowstone National Park.
Mm.
There, and it's just, it looks like a movie. So if you haven't been to my highlights on my either my Facebook or my Instagram, go there and look up anything on Montana. It literally looks like glass. That's how clear and clean. We didn't drink the water. Uh, anyway, how clear and clean everything is there. And it was one of the few places where if you went to the grocery store in Montana, they would ask, "Are you visiting?" "Yeah, we're just visiting some clients here." Please keep it that way.
Yeah, Montana, they're not too keen on new people moving there.
Yes, but we love our friends there. Shout out to our friends in Montana, Eric and Cherie, who were the hostesses with the most. We had some
Oh
of the
yeah.
best steak there. We had a wonderful health and hope. I received a rock there with painting. We don't have time to get into it. That's a whole other podcast, but it was very anointed, and God definitely met us there in
Mm.
Montana, I would say.
Yeah, Montana was incredible. We stayed in Gardner, which is south, right at the border where Yellowstone Park is, and we stayed in Missoula, where the University of Montana is, and then we stayed up close to Glacier National Park as
Mm-hmm.
well. And all three places that we stayed were just the most beautiful things ever. Pictures don't even do them justice. If you haven't seen it in person, you must go.
Go to Montana.
And here's my tip: we were there in May, go in July. It'll be
Yes.
much warmer in July. And Glacier National Park, actually, there's a road that goes all the way through it up into, so you can see the glacier. And when we were there in late May, the road was still like closed because it was covered in 12 feet of snow. So go in July.
That road is called Going to the Sun Road. I never forgot the name of that road because it's so romantic sounding. But even if it's closed off, I know you could take your bike or walk. And we did see several people do that. But yeah, Montana was the biggest highlight. Of course, Arizona, because God called
Yeah,
us here.
so I
Yeah.
want to talk about Arizona because for me that was a huge moment for
Mhm.
me anyway. When we came to Arizona for the first time, we stayed at Lake Pleasant Regional Park, which is like the northwest part of Phoenix, and we were parked kind of like up on the mountain. And we got in kind of as the sun was going down. And if you've ever been to Arizona during a sunset, you know that it has the most
Woo!
incredible sunsets that you could ever find, right? And it's like we're there in January, so the weather is incredible. It's just starting to get chilly, perfect weather for a campfire. And you've got the saguaro cactus with the sunset and the mountains. And oh, it was just so incredible. What an incredible masterpiece that God has created. And for me, that's when I fell in love with Arizona. Like that very night, I was like, okay, you got something for me here. Like this is speaking to me. And I still remember the pictures that we took. You all bundled up in your blanket next to the saguaro with the sunset and behind you. Probably, I'm sure she'll add some pictures to this or something. You'll be able to see them. But yeah, that was definitely a memorable campground for me. And then, how about our memorable for a bad reason campgrounds?
Oh my goodness. I want to go back to something he said. When I saw the sunset here in Arizona, I literally, as a music teacher, the Purple Mountains Majesty, because I had just never seen it before. It's so beautiful. And I love Texas. It's pretty flat, except for the hills in Westlake, of course, Austin. But besides that, um, the Purple Mountains come to life. So, yes, let's talk about what happened when we were at that park at Lake Pleasant, and we probably had, what would you say, 35-mile-an-hour straight line winds coming against our camper? Or was it like 50 miles an hour? I don't know what it was, but it was rocking us.
Same park, different visit, but yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
was a little scary. Now, we did have all the safety features. Adam had us, anchored down, all the wheels, you had little pegs to make sure the tires don't move, and the little I don't even know what they're called, but the little weight bearing metal things that came down to
Yeah,
like hold the weight. What are those called?
it's the leveling jacks.
Leveling
Yeah,
jacks. He had those down. We were still rocking, and that's how insane those winds were. Now that's not very usual for Arizona, but we just so happened to be camping, and that was
and we
three
were on a
nights.
mountain, so yeah, the winds
Yeah.
wouldn't stop. One of my least favorite campgrounds that we were at. There's been a couple of them
Oh
for sure.
no.
One of them was in Texas, and we were there for an event, so we were trying to find a campground kind of close to the event, and so we found one, and everything was fine and good, but it rained the entire week that we were there, and these poor campground owners. I don't know. I feel for them, but
Oh, I
the
forgot about
septic
that.
tanks filled up with rainwater and started just flooding the entire campground. So we
I
went to
forgot about
Walmart and we
this.
got our mud boots, that are big galoshes or big rubber boots, so that we could go from the car to the RV without tracing poop water into one or the other. It was a whole thing. But
I
what are
forgot
you going to
about
do,
that.
right? It's not like you can just pick up and go someplace else, because campgrounds tend to sell out pretty fast. And to find one in your area at short notice is actually a really hard thing to do, which we'll talk more about when we get to our tips later. So that was one of my least favorite. The other one, uh, there's a couple of them. The other one that was probably my least favorite was here in Arizona. Um, one of the great things about trying to find campgrounds when you haven't actually been to them is you never know what you're going to get until you get there.
Oh
So
yeah.
we got to this one, and I was already a little bit sketched out by the area, and I stopped at the
A little bit.
host's, and it's like a host's. I guess it's a house, kind of, sort of, and it said to like knock on the door. So I knocked on the door, and the dogs are barking, and no one's around. I don't know what's going on, and it's like, what the heck, right? And this lady comes out, and she's like super frazzled, kind of like manic, even almost like probably some drugs involved. And she's like, "Oh well, yeah, I got your reservation, but we don't actually have a spot. We have an overflow spot for you."
Oh yeah.
And so she parks us next to the bathroom building. So our door opens up, and like really we're looking at the wall
Toilets.
of the bathroom, right? And all the amazing smells that come with that. So that was another interesting experience, is to get there, and we think we have a spot, and the spot is actually just parked on the drive next to the bathroom with an extension cord.
Oh,
Uh,
I forgot about
yeah,
extension
it was
cord.
like an extension cord and an extension like poop hose. Needless to say, that didn't last very long. We got on the horn and tried to find a new place ASAP, and we were able to. Thank God we were able to find one, because I'm not sure what that would have been like for a week, but I'm sure it would not have been fun.
We talk about all these moments, and we could probably do a second podcast on this, but I will say, Hoff the Record, despite the craziness, it was such a fun adventure with
Mm.
my husband because, we look back and, it's funny, a lot of those things, because we knew we weren't going to do this the rest of our lives. So we kind of took it with a grain of salt. And, there were highlights. We got to see all over this beautiful country some gorgeous sunsets. We got to try restaurants that were in the area. We got to go on family walks with our dog and just have great conversations and unwind from the long drives.
Mm-hmm.
But there was just so many wonderful moments. I mean, just spending time with the Lord, visiting different churches. It was so cool to just say that the highlights, they did make it worth it.
Oh, totally. 100% worth it. And, one of the things, and we're going to get into some tips here, but one of the best tips that we ever got when we were kind of planning this all out, preparing ourselves, was that, you know, it's not always going to go according to plan. And so if you just kind of have your expectations that like stuff is going to happen, stuff is going to go wrong, when it does, you can laugh about it instead of letting it completely ruin your day. And so when we had these hiccups, remember the time that we were driving like in the mountains in California, and it was like a complete downpour, and we're doing all these windy roads, and I'm driving and you're on the phone,
I'm
like
on the
doing a
phone.
coaching call with somebody, and she's like coaching the guy or the lady probably, and then hits mute, and then she's like, watch out for this. And then she get on and she's like back and forth. And Yeah, so those events were fun, but here's the thing: none we never got too wrapped around the axle, so to speak, about anything that didn't go according to plan. Like
No.
we laughed about it more often than not, even if we didn't immediately laugh about it. Oh, there's that one time right after we got our fifth wheel that
Oh, this is on
we
me.
pulled the cord out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but again, this is just another way that God just kind of
Smoke came out.
provided. But I we were hooking up or unhooking, or I don't remember which. And when you do that, there's a plug that goes into the truck,
For lights and brakes and all that.
and it didn't get unhooked for whatever reason. And I started pulling forward, and I just pulled the plug right out, and everything started smoking. Something had shorted out, so everything started smoking. And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I turned the battery off. I got the fire extinguisher, and everything kind of stopped. So I called the dealership. But here's the God's provision of
This
this,
was
right?
so good.
So we were only 10 minutes away from the dealership because we had just bought it, and we got a spot near there to try to work out the kinks for cases like this happen. And we took it in, and what could have been thousands of dollars of repairs was actually covered under warranty because it was set up wrong, because it never should have shorted and smoked if that happened. And so they covered everything except for, like, it was like $200 for like a new plug head or something like that.
Yeah, and I speak to all the wives on here, or if you're in the relationship, maybe it's the husband, like whoever the like, just in case something hits the fan, which that definitely did. I had her suitcase, because we didn't really need a suitcase because we took our whole house with us essentially, but it had all of our important documents. It had like her passports, it had like
It was our
emergency
go
clothes.
bag,
It's the
basically.
go
Yeah.
bag in case of emergency. So while it was smoking, Adam had the fire extinguisher. I said there are two things I need to grab. And I grabbed her dog, number one, which actually she might have already been in the back seat. But anyway, I grabbed her dog and I grabbed that suitcase. And I said, even if this all goes to fire, if this all goes to where, like I said, at least we won't have to stand in line for new passports because
Yep.
yeah, that was the biggest thing. But that's a tip. I know we're not in tips yet. Maybe there's a good transition.
This is a great transition into tips.
Yes. So I know this is technically not number one, but I'm going to make it number one. Number
Okay.
one, have a to go bag. And this is the go bag for exactly for what we just described: your passports, important documents. If you have little ones like, you know, baby food, emergency food, diapers, just a normal travel size suitcase where you can easily grab it. And like I'm talking, you can get it in 9 seconds in case something starts to go down or
This
there's a
is
tornado. And we also, at a lot of RV places, there was a tornado shelter. It's
right.
usually the bathrooms made out of concrete. So if an F5 tornado hits, you're not going to stay in your trailer. You take in your dog, your kids, your husband, and that suitcase, and if you have time, and you are going into the emergency shelter.
That's also just a good idea no matter where you live.
Yeah.
But with RV life, because you are more exposed to the weather and the elements, and especially because some of those things happen real fast, like flash floods
Mm-hmm.
or tornadoes or things like that, it's good just to have something you can grab and go real quick in case you got to get out in a hurry. So, one of the mistakes that we made a couple of times going into our tips now is to make sure you match your tow vehicle and your trailer to each other's specifications. So when we first started, our Jeep Gladiator said that it could tow 6,500 pounds,
Oh.
and our trailer was like 5,800 pounds. So me, not knowing any better, I was like, "Great, we're good, right?" And we leave the dealership with our camper attached to our Jeep Gladiator, and I realized really quickly, like, this ain't good. It's the camper's too heavy for the truck, and so it would the tail would wag the dog, you could say. So that setup didn't last very long because we needed to get a quote unquote real truck in order to tow the camper. So making sure that you know the numbers of what your truck can haul, how heavy your truck is versus how heavy your camper is, and towing capacity. Now, here's the thing: everyone talks about towing capacity, but towing capacity doesn't really matter. What matters is your payload. So if you have a travel trailer, let's say, that is 10,000 pounds, your tongue weight is going to be roughly 15% of that, which means that 1,500 pounds is going against your payload for your pickup. Now, most half-ton pickups don't have 1,500 pounds available payload. And the payload not only includes what your trailer ton weight is, but all the equipment and people that you also load into it. So if you're traveling with a family of four, and you weigh 200 pounds and your wife is 120 pounds and your two kids are another 150 pounds, you've got like 400 or 500 pounds worth of people right there. So you have to make sure that you pick the right trailer, or pick the right truck, upgrade your truck if you need to, because what you don't want is to have all of your family in your truck and your trailer and be way overloaded and be super unsafe traveling down the road, or having your truck break down because you're overweight.
How many times have you seen like on the highway where they're pulling a camper, but you see this Boeing happen? Adam and I
Not usually a good sign.
we
Yeah.
always see that and we go, it's too heavy. Or they pack their entire life in like the truck of their bed's packed, their back seats
Mm-hmm.
packed. How much stuff do you really need? And I know
Yeah.
a lot of people have told us, well, you guys don't have kids, you don't know anything. But I mean, just the two of us, we really
We
didn't
learned,
need
trust
much.
us.
Yeah.
We learned a lot.
Yeah.
So just make sure that when you do it, that you do it right and do it consistently. Now, if you're a weekend warrior and you're taking your camper maybe 100 miles, that's a whole one thing, right?
Right.
But if you are full timing it, you're traveling thousands of miles. It's where you live. You're either living in your truck or in your trailer, depending on if you're driving or if you're sleeping. Like, you want to really make sure that you've got the right rig and the right setup for you. Also, when you're buying a camper, like, what are you going to use it for? Are you going to live in it, or is it just kind of a weekend getaway? Because you can get away with a lot less camper for a weekend getaway. And if you are living in it, you're going to want a little bit more space and probably some separation of your space. Our first camper didn't have any separation of our space, and it made it really difficult because I would get up early or she would get up early, and then we would both be up early, and that was just how it was, right? And so trying to do two work calls at the same time, if it was raining outside, things like that became really difficult. So having extra space, if you're going to need that, just make sure that you've got some separated space.
Loneliness on the road is very real. And I want to speak to this to the ladies. I mean, a lot of people, they find like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing that you got to do that. And it was incredible. We got to have a lot of quality time together and get to know each other. It's been great. I loved it.
We
Sometimes I
spent
miss it.
we spent more time together in those 2 years than a lot of married people do in 20 years. So
Yeah.
it was a huge blessing, and
Yeah.
it was great for our relationship because there was no place to run or hide. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there wasn't like, oh, I'm going to storm off and whatever. No, we're still there. We're right next to each other the whole time. And a lot of our viewers, they joke about, oh, the fights that happen because so and so's backing up the trailer and the other one's giving the directions or whatever. And like, we didn't really ever experience any of that because we never really like put that pressure on each other to be perfect about it. And if we messed up, it's okay. We'll just try it again, right?
It could be that we're both firstborns. And so we were kind of like, okay, Margot. So it was like the windows were down, and I'm over here like, you got 2 more feet. You could probably go a little bit more. And it was more like we're on the same team here. So
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe because we're firstborns. But anyway,
But the loneliness piece came from
yes.
community, right? And so, before we left, we were part of a great church and had family and friends, and we saw them relatively regularly. And what we didn't expect when we were RVing, because we were still going to go see friends
Yeah.
and spend time with people, but we didn't have that regular, consistent community to put down roots in. And we didn't realize really for the first year like how much we needed that. And like that second year, we're like, there's something missing in our life, you know what I mean?
hmm
And we God kind of revealed to us, like, you guys are supposed to be in community. Like, you're going around and you're building community with new people, and that's awesome, but you guys need to have your community as well. And I was like, oh yeah.
Got to the point where I think about a year and a half in, I started to have trouble sleeping. And if you've seen our podcast called Pray for Yourself, Adam and I had a very strong spiritual moment where instead of waking him up in the middle of the night, like, Adam, pray for me. You can watch that whole episode. Long story short, he's like, pray for yourself. And I was shocked. And you can check out that podcast to watch that. But I will say, like, I need to be around people. I'm an extrovert. I love being around people. I love to make people laugh. And though we were visiting clients across the United States of America, it was still hard because, you're giving and then they love on you and you take food home and you get to visit their church and spend time with their families. But then it's like, okay, well, time to go. And there's not that like, community piece, as in like the longevity. And I think that's something that, maybe you're on here and you've been away from the community because of COVID. It's now 5 years later as of this recording. And maybe you haven't, you've just been doing online church. And I praise God if that's the only way you can attend church. But I encourage you, if you are physically able, to go in person. So that's the third tip, right? Is loneliness. It is lonely on the road. Musicians that travel full time will share the same thing, or pilots.
Mhm.
But just know that maybe you try out RVing and you just do some weekends. Be a weekend warrior, like Evan talked about. And if you can do that, then maybe, like you said, do 6 weeks at a time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's some great places for connection online, but it's just not the same as being in person. We thought that like RV parks would be a great place to meet people, and turns out I think we're a little bit more outgoing than most people are.
Yeah.
There and just never seem to be an open door there. People kind of keep to themselves, or they're off for the weekend with their family. They want to spend time with their family and whatever. And I totally get that. So
Number
number
four.
four, not everything is Instagram worthy, right? And so, you know, when you're living in an RV full time, an RV is like a house, but not built as strong as a house, and it goes bouncing down the road at 80 miles an hour with you. So stuff is going to break, stuff is going to need maintenance. It's just going to happen. Same thing with your tow vehicle. It's going to need maintenance. It's going to need to get cleaned out because you spend a lot of time in it when you're driving across the country. So, not everything is Instagram worthy. There was a lot of repairs and maintenance and things that need to get done. Now, the nice thing about campers and RVs for the most part is that nothing is super complicated. It's all pretty simple operations. So if you're handy, you'll probably be fine. If you're not handy, you can YouTube just about how to do anything on
Yeah.
there. So it's not too bad to do it. It just know that it's going to happen. Stuff is going to break. Stuff is going to need maintenance. I remember we got back from, I don't know, an event or something. We came back and like, what's that water running sound? And there's like water pouring out the bottom of our camper. Like, oh no, what's happening? And all that had happened is a water line had come loose as we were, bouncing down the road. And so we hooked everything up and we left and went to this event or went to go get dinner or something like that. We come back and there's water everywhere. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. We mopped it up, dried it out, fixed the loose fitting, and moved on with our life. But it's going to happen. So,
Yeah, and I love that we just found the joy and the simplicity, that less really can be more.
yeah, it was
Um,
a huge,
yeah.
this wasn't on our list of tips, but it was a huge exercise in minimalism for us.
Yes.
When we moved out of our house and sold our house before we did this, like we had all this stuff and we're like, we don't need all this stuff. Like, so we downsized everything. We sold a whole bunch of stuff. We put whatever we didn't sell into a storage garage. And we literally had like, what, 4 bowls and 4 forks and 4 spoons and a couple of cups and a coffee pot.
Yeah, French press.
Oh,
Yeah.
and a cast iron skillet. Yeah,
Boom.
we did everything with the cast iron skillet. So um, we didn't really need anything else. That was the crazy thing. So just the simplicity of living in that way was awesome. It wasn't all perfect. The state parks we stayed at were beautiful, nature. Sometimes we're at an RV park and we're packed in like sardines with other RVers, and they're
Hello,
like,
neighbor.
howdy, neighbor, as we're like standing, in our window, looking at them standing out their window or whatever. So,
All right, now let's go to tip number 5. Now, this is a big one. So maybe you skip to this part of the video. This is the actual equipment that we found to be useful and stuff that was actually not useful. And my number one on my list, Adam, is having the tire pressure monitor because of all the bouncing, all the moving around. As a woman, I wanted to make sure like we were secure.
mhm.
And so just knowing what's going on with the tires, both on the rig and both on the camper, it was so nice to know, hey, you know what, with this bad weather, maybe we do stay an extra night or we go fix this. So it is worth, how much was it to have a little tire,
It was worth its weight in gold because
whatever it was.
most RV, or at least travel trailer type incidents happen when a tire blows out, right? So
Yeah.
if you have a pressure monitor, you can make sure that the pressures are all within the ranges. They're not too high, they're not too low. If you do have a blowout, and you might not feel it if you've got, two or three axles, you'll know, and you can pull over and take care of it. But
Hmm.
those things are really important, just for a safety standpoint. And also it's really nice just to like turn on the truck and see them all without having to like check them every time you stop, things like that. So those are really good. You need a quality surge protector,
Oh, yeah.
because the pedestals in campgrounds and RV parks are not always wired by professionals. So you want to make sure you've got a quality surge protector that will protect your equipment if their pedestal is wired poorly or gets a surge or whatever. And this happens often. This is a big cause of fires in campers, because if they're not using a surge protector, or they use a cheap surge protector that doesn't stop a surge, then it can really cause issues.
Another one are the leveling blocks. That was something I got to do as I say the co-pilot. So we go in the camper, and there's usually a leveler and all that, and you can kind of feel like I'm kind of leaning toward the right. We can level it out with the
Yeah.
blocks because obviously the ground out in nature is not always going to be even.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another great investment are the leveling
Yeah.
blocks.
Our first rig had just jacks, so we would have to use blocks to level that one. Our second one had self leveling levelers on it, so we didn't have to worry about it as much with that
Mm-hmm.
one. So just know if you need those, then you definitely need them. You want your rig to be level for multiple reasons. Not to mention, your refrigerator won't work if it's off level too much, or
Mm-hmm.
things like that. But also your water will pool like in the shower or in the toilet in weird ways, and nothing will work right. So
You don't want anything weird with toilets and
yeah,
refrigerators.
yeah, we
So
did have to do one black tank repair job, and I highly do not recommend ever having to do that. Let's see here. What else was good? Quality hoses. Keeping your water hose separate from your flush hose.
yes.
You don't want to use the same hose to fill your freshwater tank that you use to flush out your blackwater tank. The blackwater tank is the bad one, by the way. Um, so yeah,
The
a
gray
couple
water is like dishwasher water.
dishwater and sink water, and then the blackwater is the other one. Um,
You know.
yeah, you can probably guess. Let's see here. What else was good stuff? Oh, comfortable outdoor chairs.
Yeah.
You want to spend as much time outdoors as possible. Obviously, that's part of the whole reason. So, comfortable outdoor chairs, and a good, if your rig doesn't come with one, a good outdoor cooking apparatus, a grill or a Blackstone or something like that. It's great to cook outside because in those small spaces, it gets very warm or fragrant or smoky if you cook inside. And so being able to cook outside is a huge blessing, and it's just kind of like a fun man thing to do too.
Yes. And there's just so many items. I know like some lists out there are outrageous, like, these fancy covers for your windows or things like that. I mean, honestly, you'll know more like once you go on the road, and
Yeah.
blackout curtains are a must. Cause I mean, sometimes daylight will come in at like 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. and maybe you drove in late. One of our rules is we never drove after 3 p.m. A lot of after school work, after school traffic. So that was the biggest tip we took because, yeah, people drive a lot different after work, a little bit crazier. And it was nice to just be settled in for the night at a camp spot, or we sometimes would camp at a Love's gas station, which you technically can
A
do
couple
if
times
you're
we
in the
did
middle
that,
of
or
nowhere.
a Walmart, or a Cracker Barrel. Um, Yeah, that's a good point. So
It's very loud.
if you're towing, you don't want to drive like for me, if I'm just driving from one place to another, I can drive for like 16 hours a day, no problem. But when you're towing, because it takes a lot more brain capacity, I don't recommend towing more than 8 hours a day, 300 miles a day, something like that. If you can avoid it and you can plan for it, um, take it easy on that, because the more fatigued that your brain becomes, the more likely mistakes happen, right? And so uh, thinking about your travels differently than you would if it was just you in a vehicle just going.
Don't leave the dog food outside.
Don't leave the dog food outside. The raccoons love it.
Yes, they
And
do.
they'll wake you up in the middle of the night like, what does that sound?
Yes.
Ask us how we know. Let's see here. How about anything else that you was like, this was absolutely needed, camping life?
Well, because we work from home, we needed a cell phone
Mm-hmm.
booster. So that was a great investment. We hooked it up to the camper, and then we moved it whenever we went from our little camper, pull along camper, to our fifth wheel. We also took it with us. We had a Verizon hotspot box or whatever. So that way, if we had a Zoom that we were presenting on, talking to clients, we were able to be fully present versus like, oh my gosh, I got to drive an hour to go into town where there's signal, because that's happened a
Mm-hmm.
couple times. Then you can see me on the Zoom. So the booster helped. I would say 80% of the time. There were times where
We were so far out there that it didn't
it
matter,
didn't matter, but it's okay. And
but it
we
was a
didn't have
help.
Starlink. I
No,
know that exists now. So if you know anything about Starlink, let us know
yeah,
below.
it
I'm actually
wasn't
curious.
really an option then.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What else? Oh, command hooks and like command
Yes.
Velcro strips were huge for hanging stuff on the walls or added storage. Place for hanging utensils for the grill or for the kitchen. So it just kind of created some extra space. Anytime you can get anything up off the counters or off any of the surface areas and create a space for it, that was super helpful. Another thing you want to have is you want to have a good toolkit. So we were talking earlier about maintenance. So you've got the tools that you need, including that a torque wrench, so you can check the torque on your wheels for your trailer as well as your tow vehicle.
Things like bedding and clothes. I mean, obviously, bring the different seasons with you, because some places in altitude will be a lot colder, or some places will be really hot, steamy, humid. And so you'll need some different wardrobes. So just don't assume, oh, it's going to be 30 degrees. That could easily change anywhere you're at.
Yeah, if you're full time in it, the nice thing is you're going to have all of your clothes with you, ideally. Um,
Yeah.
but know that the weather that's outside the camper tends to come inside the camper. So if it's cold and damp outside, it's going to be cold and damp inside, even if you have the heat running and things like that. So let's talk about what's the most overrated thing that we drug along with us all over the country that we never used. I can think of a few things.
Oh, that's a hard one that I thought were overrated for camping. And number one are the outdoor lights, disco lights, LED lights. Guess what they attract? They attract bugs like you don't even believe. So if you're prone to mosquito bites or flies trying to get up in your food that you're trying to grill, just have the light to cook. And if you're hanging out, enjoy the natural light. Or if it's nighttime, from the campfire.
There we go.
That lights. I mean, it looks so cool and beautiful in the photos. Do not recommend getting a bunch of fancy lights. Now, it is nice to have, like, a light if you're going to go outside and let your dog out, because there could be coyotes or little critters. But you don't need all these fancy, crazy lights trying to communicate with extraterrestrials. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
decorative lights are definitely something. I mean, you got to put them up, you got to take them down every time you go, so it's a whole thing, right?
Another one, I won't even number these, is like a bunch of wall decorations, because like Adam said earlier, you're bouncing all over the highway. You have unpredictable like paths to get to your outdoor camping spot. That you might go over a big rock. Things can fall down. So not that we're sponsored by them, but Mixed Tiles makes these magnetic paintings. They can go on the wall, so if they do fall down, they easily go back up. So you don't have to get any fancy heavy things. That just adds more weight to
Yeah,
your car. We hung up cute posters from Five Below, like Adam said, with a command strip. So that's another one that.
yeah. So here's one that we did, and I remember how much this was such a pain, and we never used it. We got one of those big pop-up clamshell screened-in outdoor areas, right? So we're like, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to spend so much time in this outdoors, and I think we used it once, maybe twice, the whole time that we were traveling, and it took up like 8 feet of truck bed space. So it was a huge waste of space and waste of time. If you're going to be outside a lot and like have people over and want to do that whatever, we would sit around the campfire. The fire smoke would take care of the bugs, and when we were done with that, we'd go inside, go to bed. So we never really used it as much as we thought that we would. So that would be a waste. Another thing, and this is controversial, but you don't really need RV specific toilet paper. So they'll try to sell you RV toilet paper, and it'll be like 3 times as much as regular toilet paper, which still isn't that expensive, but you don't really have to use.
Another one would be like the people use carpet to cover up the three little steps that go up into your camper. That's a disaster. That's just going to collect dirt, mold, whatever, because it's going to get rained on. You know what? Have like a mat for the inside, so where you take off your shoes. We're no shoe indoor people in our house, so we had a little place where we can put our shoes. It was like a little net.
Mhm.
We put our shoes in there, and yeah, it'd be muddy sometimes, but um, you know, the stairs you can always clean them off. We have a broom, or we had a broom that we would clean off, and it was good. It was fine.
Yep, yep. We also, and this is us. I mean, maybe you're different, but we brought our golf clubs with us as we traveled everywhere, and I don't think that we used them once. We did a lot of things while we traveled, but we never golfed, and so that was one of the things we're like, oh man, I'd really like to have them if I need them, but then we never actually used them. So when you're going to find out as you travel that you're going to have stuff that you're like, I don't really actually ever need that. And you're going to find out what you do need. So, what I would recommend if you're getting started on this is start small. You can always add more stuff, it's harder to get rid of stuff. Um, so, start small with just some basic things. And as you find a need for something and you need it more than once, then just go buy it and
Yeah.
add it to your repertoire as you go.
And if
Um,
it's something only on Amazon, they have Amazon like, where you can do it at a gas station in those
mhm.
little
Little
boxes.
lockers.
Lockers, you'll
Some
be
RV
fine.
parks will also let you order Amazon to the RV park as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we need to do a bonus round on coffee setup on this because we went through several
Oh.
different iterations of our coffee setup as well.
Yeah, I mean, we did eventually have a coffee machine with us, but honestly, the French press was, of course, stronger, but it was more compact. So we had our tiny little coffee grinder. We put the beans in there. If you know, you know. Then we would do it in the French press. It
So,
was good.
and I absolutely loved the French press. But I will say for camping, it created some difficulties because to wash the
Oh
grounds
yeah.
out of it, you can't put the grounds into the camper tank because they go into the gray tank and then they solidify and then it blocks up the tube, right? So what I found was using our drip coffee maker with a paper filter was the easiest thing to do because I could just throw the grounds into the garbage and the garbage would go in the dumpster as we got done with the trip. Plus, you could also make hot water pretty quickly just by running it through the drip coffee maker. So uh, you choose you. The French press was my absolute favorite from a taste standpoint, from an equipment standpoint, but the drip was just super easy.
Well, there's just a couple of heart lessons from the highway. I'd say God did provide for us opportunities. We got to meet some fun people at some campgrounds, have great conversations. Like some campgrounds, some RV parks, people stay there for the entire like season. So they have their own little church service there, or they'll have like community events like a movie night. And I love those KOAs. Shout out to them. KOAs are really, I would say, very family friendly and safe for the most part. My favorite KOA was Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
That
It
was a
was
good
like
one.
a literal
It was a
party,
party.
and it was fun. And say what you will about Myrtle Beach, I thought it was absolutely a blast. I love the KOA there. Good people, good vibes. Another great one with a great community was Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own. I don't know if it was the KOA there or if it was the
It
one
was Gulf
just
Shores State Park. Yeah,
state park.
yeah.
They even have a Facebook page, and so beautiful place to be. We can keep naming names,
Yeah.
but
They
we
had
do
we were
encourage
there for
you.
Christmas and they had like a Christmas carols thing and
Yes.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
We do encourage you, like, do your research before you go. I mean, we kind of went a little blind, and that was, I don't know, we kind of like that adventure. But if you're a big plan, but just know that things could be full. You might show up and they say you're not on the list. Crazy things can happen, or some places you can only pay like with an envelope and cash. You have to put it in that night if
It's
you
a whole
came in
thing.
super
Yeah.
super late. So have cash with you too.
Yeah, good idea.
Just a lot of little things. I mean, this is going to easily be an hour long. And I would say at the end of the day, Just to recap, would we do it again? I would. I enjoyed RVing. I wouldn't do it full time, but I might be a weekend warrior. I'm ready for it again.
So it's a little bit of a loaded question. If we didn't have this experience, I would totally do it again. Having had this experience, I don't have to do it again. But if
Mm-hmm.
I were to, I wouldn't be against it either. But if I were to, I would go for, maybe a month at a time and then spend a couple months at home for 6 weeks, something like that. Because I think having a home base and a home community is really important. And it was a big hole in my soul as we were traveling all the time. So I think doing it differently and just doing less go and spending more time in one place would be another thing, because I think we traveled like every week or so we'd be someplace new, and sometimes I just felt like it was almost a little bit rushed because we did have some events we had to go to and places we had to be at specific times, and so sometimes that rushed us through kind of what we wanted to do. So yeah, those are a couple things that I would do differently next time.
Yeah, and just rapid fire, Montana, Idaho was a
Idaho,
surprise.
Boise is a beautiful town.
Beautiful in the summer.
Totally snuck up on us.
Um,
Redding, California, that was a
yes.
beautiful place as well. The redwoods, oh my gosh.
Oh, I have a really crazy photo. It's like our big fifth wheel camper, which is ginormous. Next to this, I'm talking a 200-year-old redwood that's like, I don't even know how tall. Would you say 100 foot tall?
At least, yeah.
Yeah, and these gigantic trees, it just made it look like we were like from a fairy garden, like these little toys next to these giant trees.
Our
It was a little scary if
our
there's a
camper
storm,
was
but we were fine.
like 31 foot long, and I think the diameter of the tree was like 27 feet or something
It's
like that at the
insane.
base. It was absolutely insane. Let's see what else. We talked about Montana already. Every place in Montana is just amazing. Arizona was
Of
beautiful
course.
at Lake Pleasant Regional Park as well as Usuri
Usury.
Regional Park. Those were two just amazing ones. There's whatever that we stayed at Deer Valley RV Park as well. That was a really pretty park.
My favorite, where we got our feet kind of wet with all this, was Cherry Glen over there in Des Moines,
In Des Moines,
Iowa.
Iowa, yeah,
So
where
cute.
we
We
tested
love
out
that
our first
campground.
rig. Yep, and we
Yeah,
had some great weekends there.
wonderful times.
What else? Oh, there that one in Texas that up on the hill there, Cedar
Oh,
Hill.
Cedar
Yeah,
Hill up in the
Cedar
Dallas Fort
Hill
Worth
State
area.
Park in Dallas Fort Worth. It's our go-to for Dallas Fort Worth area because it's like $35 a night. You get water and sewer, which that's an unheard of rate,
Hmm.
and it's beautiful. It's in nature, incredible sunsets. So that was a really nice one because we spent a lot of time back and forth in Dallas as well.
And our final encouragement is, don't chase the picture, chase the purpose. It was
Yeah.
so much fun. And if you ever want to talk to us about RV life, go to the comments below. Have any questions, or maybe you have suggestions for our viewers, just state them below because we are lifelong learners.
Absolutely. And we can save you a ton of money in stupid mistakes.
Well, I can't make that guarantee, but we can definitely help them out a little bit. So, yeah, anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Love you guys.
Love you.